I think the government should be stick with the nuclear-free homeland policy.
We have to be realistic. If you take a look at the number, the electricity share by renewable energy this year, it's only 10.5%.
I just want to remind everyone that actually there's a seismic fault just located next to the Ma'anshan nuclear power plant.
A seismic effect is not a real concern. If we look at the three major nuclear accidents around the world, not one of them was caused by earthquakes.
Hello and welcome to Connected. I'm Tomasz Koper, sitting in for Divya Gopalan. The world is set to reach a new record in nuclear energy capacity at the end of this year. But at the same time, the share of nuclear power in global commercial electricity generation has been steadily falling since 1996. As countries like Germany are phasing out nuclear power, others, including the world's most populous nations, China and India, keep adding new reactors and developing new technologies in the industry. Taiwan used to rely heavily on nuclear power, but that energy source has fallen out of favor with large portions of the public and politicians. Now only one reactor remains active in the country, and that plant is slated for shutdown next year. So is the history of nuclear power in Taiwan coming to an end? To talk about the future of nuclear power, we welcome to the studio distinguished Professor Tsung-Kuang from the College of Nuclear Science at the National Tsinghua University, joining us from Hsinchu. And from Taipei, we have Professor Chia-Wei, who is the research director at Taiwan Climate Action Network and an adjunct assistant professor of program in climate change and sustainable development at the National Taiwan University. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Tsung-Kuang, I want to start with you. Is this the end of the history of nuclear power in Taiwan?
I don't really think so, because although the final unit from Ma'anshan nuclear power plant will be shut down next year in May, but I think the current President Lai, has a somewhat different idea about nuclear energy for the future. So we will just have to wait and see. I think Taiwan has to, according to DPP, Taiwan has to go into the phase of nuclear-free homeland. Okay, it may stay there for a while, but maybe a month, maybe a year. I think nuclear energy will definitely come back for the future.
Well, Chia-Wei, the same question to you. Do you think that this is the end of the history of nuclear power in Taiwan?
I will say it's a new stage of the nuclear power in history in Taiwan, because we always say for the nuclear, it will kind of like stay with you for a very long time, for many years, because we have to thinking about the nuclear waste issue. But I was very glad to hear the Professor Ye say that he think we will go into the nuclear free homeland after next May. So there's no chance we have the lifetime extension for the remaining Ma'anshan nuclear power nuclear power plant. We call the nuclear power number 3. Although but in the meantime, we see some narrative related to talking about the advanced nuclear technology might be still viewed as in the energy mix of the government. But I will say it's kind of like a narrative talking. So that means that we will have a kind of like a new perspective in terms of the role of the nuclear power, since we are moving into a nuclear free homeland, and we can see what's the pro for those kind of new innovate power system, and maybe we can feel more confidence that we can keep our lights on, and even without any nuclear power. Yeah.
Tsung-Kuang, I think I detected a little bit of cautious optimism in your answer there. So do you think that nuclear power is good for Taiwan, or rather, is Taiwan a good fit for installing nuclear capacity?
We need nuclear energy in Taiwan, definitely. Okay, so I was talking about future nuclear technology. For example, small modular reactor could be commercialized in a year of 2030. But if you consider the time to 2030, there will be 6 more years. So I think, I just mentioned that this government will definitely go into nuclear-free homeland next May in the year of 2025. But maybe after 6 months or maybe after 1 year, they would consider the restart of the shutdown units. For example, 2 units at the Guosen nuclear power plant or the other units at Mahasan nuclear power plant. We need that because we need base load electricity. We need carbon-free electricity for Taiwan, especially for the semiconductor industry and also for artificial intelligence industry to be developed in Taiwan. So we are not that, Taiwan has no abundant resource of energy, natural resources. There's no sufficient natural resources, energy resources in Taiwan. So we need to have this semi-indigenous energy source, for example, nuclear energy, to be adopted in Taiwan. So overall, Taiwan is facing this problem of electricity shortage. And so we need a very stable electricity source, such as nuclear energy for Taiwan for the future. Politically speaking, DPP may allow a very short time of nuclear-free homeland next year, but they cannot hold on much longer. So I think eventually this government, I'm not talking about next government, I'm talking about this government may be thinking about going back to nuclear after May next year.
Well, Chia-Wei, I'm curious to hear your response to that. Given what we've heard, do you think Taiwan should go ahead with its nuclear-free homeland, or the current administration, should they pursue that goal or go back to using nuclear energy? Or is green energy a good substitute for that?
Yeah, I think the government should be stick with the nuclear-free homeland policy. That will be a kind of like actually it's a legally binding target that in our environmental basic act. But there's 3 main reasons I'm talking about that. The first one is the safety issue, like also the Professor Ye also highlight this is a very important thing. If any nuclear power plant you want that to restart, you have to make sure that it will be safety compatible in terms of all the extreme issue we have to consider. But I just want to remind everyone that actually there's a seismic fault just located next to the Mahasan nuclear power plant, the nuclear power number 3. And when we talk about the nuclear power in the north part of Taiwan, within there 30 kilometers, there was more than 5 million people was living around that. So that leads to a kind of like a more dramatic seismic risk if we want to restart those kind of restart those nuclear power plants. And then the second thing is about the cost. Actually, you want to, even we talk about life extension for the nuclear power is not cheap. The cost will be higher than the renewable energy if we include all the safety enhancement into a consideration. And the last thing I want to remind everyone is that there's a crowding out effect for that, because recently we have heard from our renewable industry when they hear anything about the second soul of the nuclear issue, there was kind of like they also hinder their investment decision, because the reason they were willing to invest in those kind of renewable energy 8 years ago, because they think the nuclear phase out give a very clear policy signal.
I am very glad you mentioned safety and cost, because I want to get to both of those things in the program, starting with safety. Safety is a big concern for many of us with regard to nuclear power. That's why our contributor Jay Chern spoke to Min Lee, a distinguished professor from the Department of Engineering and System Science at the National Tsing-Kuang University, about this issue.
大家会对核能安全会有疑虑哈，我现在讲哈，世界上大家比较知道有3个核电厂事故，我讲安全，大家谈的是什么？对健康、对生命的威胁。三里岛事故，1979年，事故之中没有任何人，包括电厂的员工，可以证明他有受到辐射的伤害，很明确。好，日本福岛事故，好，对，它很严重，炉心熔掉，污染了一些区域，到现在还有一些排放水的问题没有解决。但是同样的，福岛事故没有任何人受到可证明的辐射的伤害。再看另外一个统计数字哈，你今天用核能发电，用燃煤发电。燃煤发电会有空气污染 PM2.5，OK， 会有酸雨，这些难道不会造成健康的影响吗？会。那你核能发电辐射物质，如果它外释的话，会。核电厂它没有发生事情，就是在造成健康影响。所以你去看一些统计数字，哈，很多人都知道哈，核电厂发展到现在。它所造成的，包括工作人员所造成的生命的损失或者健康的伤害 ，OK， 跟燃煤电厂来比，可能完全不能比。有人讲说，这个燃煤电厂1天之内造成的生命财产的造成生命的损失，可能超过核电业者40年。
For the full version of that feature, visit our YouTube channel or the TaiwanPlus website. So, Chia-Wei, I want to start with you here. People are obviously worried about nuclear power in Taiwan. As we've heard just now, those concerns are maybe not always backed up by examples or data. What are the people concerned about besides, as you've mentioned before, the seismic activity and earthquakes that might damage reactors?
To compare the nuclear with the coal-fired power plant, from our side, those two power generation technology are the technology we need to phase out. We need to phase out that together. So that I would say we don't, from the environmental advocate perspective, we don't say that we need to increase the coal to replace the nuclear. This is not our position. And as for the seismic fault, I would say there's a argument. I would say there's a lack of the information right now. Is that even since we are talking about the nuclear safety in this kind of situation, there's a new evidence into the seismic fault. But whether the existing nuclear power can be withstand this kind of new finding in the seismic fault, there's no assessment for that be published, be coming out and open for the discussion. So I would say in the meantime, when we talk about whether there's a possibility to have the life extension of the nuclear power of the nuclear power. This is the information the government should be open to the public to be reviewed by the public.
Well, Tsung-Kuang, as a nuclear scientist, how do you view and respond to these concerns from the public?
Okay, so seismic effect is not a real concern. If we look at the 3 major nuclear accidents around the world, not one of them was caused by earthquakes. Okay, so if you want to talk about Fukushima accident, the earthquake then was huge, but right after the earthquake, all operating units were safely shut down at that time. So what really caused the nuclear accident at the Fukushima power plant was the tsunami. So according to the experts in Taiwan, the highest wave of a tsunami in Taiwan is only 5 meters. Okay, so it will never cause any problem in the nuclear power plant in Taiwan. Second, I want to emphasize that because Chia-Wei talked about the cost of life extension of existing nuclear power plants, I want to point out that if we look at the open data from Taiwan Power Company, you can see that for every 1 kilowatt hour electricity produced, it would cost only 1.1 NT dollar, okay, by nuclear. But if you want to produce the same amount of electricity by coal or by natural gas, it will be more than 3 NT dollars. So it's much cheaper if we have electricity produced by nuclear. Now, of course, if you want to go for life extension, you have to spend some money. Okay, for example, for safety evaluation, for component replacement, that will cost some money. But it's not really expensive because we are not talking about building new nuclear power plants. So the one other thing I want to mention is that renewable energy cannot replace nuclear. Because I mentioned earlier, we need base load electricity. And if you take a look at the two renewable projects right now that are going on in Taiwan, wind power and also solar powers, they are not dispatchable. They are not dispatchable. So when you need electricity at some time point, you cannot ask wind power to provide electricity, okay? You will not be able to ask solar power to provide electricity in the evening time. So I still have to say, we need base load. And the two renewable energies, solar power and wind power, can never replace nuclear energy in Taiwan.
Chia-Wei, I saw you wanted to jump in there, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to reply.
Yeah, I was talking about the base load issue, but I will give from a more micro perspective for that. For the AV kind of like climate modeling says that if we want to reach the net zero by 2050, the share of the renewable energy, especially wind and solar, have to come out with around 80% by 2050. So under this kind of situation, eventually we need to cut down the share of the so-called baseload power. Even in the United States, they are not talking about baseload right now. They are using the clean firm energy to talk about this situation. And this kind of clean firm energy, like nuclear power, maybe can be one of the options. But for that, maybe we can come out with the geothermal, and we can come out with the solar with the storage. We are talking about the change the overall system, overall power generation system, and the grid transmission, and the way we are operate. So that I would say, that's why we are talking about. In the meantime, we have to pursue for the flexibility of a power system, not just stay with the concept of the base load. Yeah.
We still need base load electricity, that's for sure. You can talk about geothermal, but my question is, how much more time do you need to have a geothermal power plant to be commercialized in Taiwan? I think, to my personal opinion, and I have actually talked to the experts on geothermal energy in Taiwan, they need more than 5 years, and maybe 10 years to have a real geothermal. I mean, I'm talking about deep geothermal power plant, not just the surface geothermal energy. So you need more time to have this technology to be commercialized. And of course, you can talk about energy storage system, because that's the way to store electricity by solar, by wind. But then you have to have energy storage systems with very, very high capacity. Otherwise, you would not be able to provide stable supply of electricity.
Chia-Wei, do you think that the speed of deployment of green energy in Taiwan, including capacity building, batteries, storage, is that going to be the way of the future for Taiwan?
First, the important thing is that when we talk about the progress of the renewable energy, there's some delay for the renewable energy. We have to confess for that right now, because maybe next year the renewable energy can be increased to around maybe 40% or 50%, but it's still lag behind what we are intend to have 20% that 8 years ago. But I will say for the renewable energy, the older diffusion of the renewable energy is into the kind of like a S curve, so they are going to a very rapid uptake situation. Since we are all setting out a lot of the infrastructure that we need, so we are looking forward to see solve of the bottleneck of the offshore wind energy, so we can add another 9 gigawatts of the offshore wind energy by the time of the 2035. So I would say by the 2035 we will have a lot of the offshore wind energy. Maybe the share of the offshore wind energy can be contribute around one fourth, 25% of our total electricity. But by 2035, it's very hard to imagine Taiwan can have a SMR can be installed at that time. So I will say we have to talk about we have to bring those comparison into the temporal coverage, the temporal scale that we need to discuss.
Right. Well, since you mentioned SMRs, Tsung-Kuang, I saw you wanted to jump in there. Well, we're slowly running out of time, so I wanted to briefly just mention SMRs. If you could give me your thoughts on the future of that technology. As we are developing it, this is another branch that goes alongside green energy and advancements in energy storage. Tsung-Kuang, how do you see those three mixing and interacting in the future?
Okay, Chia-Wei also asked me the same question. When I say go green with nuclear, I mean we will develop renewable energy and also nuclear energy for the future. So in 10 years, I see the future with small modular reactor, okay? And I also see the future of renewable energy. So the share for the 2035, my optimal estimation is we will have 30% of nuclear energy. We will have 30% of renewable energy. And the rest, the 30 to 40% would be the fossil fuel energy. So we have to be realistic. If you take a look at the number, the electricity share by renewable energy this year, it's only 10.5%, okay, compared with the total electricity generated so far. And I don't see that we can achieve the goal of 20% renewable energy in 2025 or even 2026, like the government plans. No, we are not going to achieve that goal. So for the most optimal estimation, if we can achieve like 30% in 10 years, that is 2035, I think that will be a big progress for renewable energy, okay, in Taiwan. And so I see that for the year of 2035, we want to meet the electricity demand, okay, not just by the general public, but also by the industry, especially by the semiconductor industry, by the AI industry. And so we need to increase the electricity supply. You cannot do it alone with only renewable energy or fossil fuel, because fossil fuel will be got rid of in the long run.
Chia-Wei, I want to hear your final thoughts on that three-way split in Taiwan's energy mix between nuclear, fossil fuels, and renewable energy.
Yeah, but I want to highlight that if you want nuclear to reach the 70%, actually that will be facing a very severe technology feasibility. You need more than 25 units of the SMR spread around Taiwan, then you have chance to reach that kind of target. So for me, there I will bet my money into to let the renewable energy, the share of the renewable energy can be reach around 45% by year 2035, which will be leads us can be on the trajectory that we can reach net zero by 2050. But remember, the semiconductor industry, they also have the renewable energy commitment. If we want to fulfill the share of the commitment by the TSMC, we have to increase the share of the renewable energy to the 45% by year 2035, and maybe even to the 65% by year 2040. Then we have chance that meets the RE commitment from the renewable from the semiconductor industry. Although we are hearing a lot of the data center company, they are focused on they are signing some contract with the nuclear power energy. We're talking about the SMR, like what we see for the Google. They are doing today the renewable energy capacity that the data center industry, like the Google, they procure. Actually, there was 100 times more than what they are talking about. They are investment in the semiconductor in the SMR right now. So that's where is the future. I think we can use those kind of information as a way to make the judgment.
Gentlemen, I feel we could discuss this for at least another hour. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you both for this very stimulating discussion. Professor Ye Tsung-Kuang from the College of Nuclear Science at the National Tsinghua University, joining us from Hsinchu, and Chia-Wei, the Research Director at Taiwan Climate Action Network and an Adjunct Assistant Professor of Program in Climate Change and Sustainable Development at the National Taiwan University, speaking to us from Taipei. And for our viewers everywhere, it's been good to have your company. If you've enjoyed today's episode or have anything you would like to add to the dialogue, join the conversation on our social media. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay connected.